Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's chant chapter 15 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, verses 1 to 5.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha Urdhvamulamadash-shakham Ashvatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi yasya parnani Yastam Veda sa Vedavid Adhaschordhvam prasrutastasya shakaha Guna pravruddha vishaya pravalaha Adhascha mulanyanu Karmanubandhini manushya-loke Na rupamasyeha tatopalabhyate Nanto na chadir na cha sampratishtha Ashvatthaменam suvirudhamulam Asangashastrena drudhena chitva Tatah padam tatparimargitavyam Yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuyah Tameva chadyam purusham prapadye Yata pravritti prasrita purani Nirmanamohajita sangadoshaha Adhyatma nitya vinivrittha kamaha Dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha sanyaihi Gacchantya-mudha padamavyayam tat.
Last week, we had discussed about chapter 15 in brief. It is one of the most important chapters in the entire Gita. It is part of the last portion of the Gita. Gita can be split into three portions or three parts. Part A from chapter 1 to 6, part B from chapter 7 to 12, and part C, part 3 from 13 to 18. Tat Tvam Asi is what is elaborated in the entire Gita. Tvam was discussed in the first 6. Tat was discussed in the middle 6, especially the world. And then what was mentioned there was that it is Brahman that has manifested as this universe, and it was discussed about Ishvara and all that there. Brahman with Maya Shakti is called Ishvara, and then from Ishvara, the Maya manifests as the subtle world and the gross world. Then from 13 till 18, now the underlying reality is being discussed. The underlying reality with reference to the jiva, with reference to the world, is one and the same. So the equation is The substratum under the jiva and the substratum under the loka world is one and the same. So from the substratum point of view, everything is one, that one consciousness. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Na Paraha. That is the discussion. So now in the beginning, he is talking about Brahman as macrocosm. This entire macrocosm is nothing but Brahman. This is what is the discussion in the first 6 chapters. Then from 7 to 11, he talks about Brahman is microcosm. This Brahman, which is microcosm and macrocosm put together, is called Kshara Purusha, means perishable. And all that he wants to say here is, knowing that it is perishable, this samsara needs to be cut as under with the sword of viveka. In fact, it is he calls it as sword of detachment, vairagya. The other side of vairagya is viveka. So what is being discussed in this chapter mainly is, first the samsara varnanam happens. The explanation of the world, or rather elaboration of the world. And the nature of the world is established as what? Kshara. And then slowly the discussion moves to Akshara and then to Uttama Purusha, which is even beyond the substratum. Akshara is the imperishable substratum. Uttama Purusha is even beyond that, Supreme Being. So now what he wants to say is, knowing the whole picture, gaining the knowledge about the world, you should withdraw from the world mentally and start seeking the goal of Brahman and attain Brahman. This is the gist of this chapter. That's all he talks about. And that Brahman is beyond all this. So in the beginning, like I mentioned, he gives the example of a tree, and with that he explains the whole thing. And as I said, they're all discussing the Upanishads and everything in the jungle, in the forest. So obviously the examples will also be taken from there. So he gives the example of a tree. Now let's get on to verse number 1. Let's chant shloka number 1 of chapter 15.
श्रीभगवानुवाच ऊर्ध्वमूलमधःशाखम् अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्.
Shri Bhagavan Vacha. The Blessed Lord said. Now some chapters you would find begins with Arjuna's question and then Shri Krishna answers. In some chapters you find that Shri Krishna directly starts talking instead of rather than Arjuna asking question and then Shri Krishna talking. So in the previous chapter he concluded by saying in 14th chapter, for I am the abode of Brahman, immortal, immutable, eternal Dharma, being and absolute bliss. He ended with the Brahman, which is beyond the gunas. Previous chapter was Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga. So now is slowly asking us to change our direction towards Brahman. And that changing direction will happen only when our mind understands the frivolous nature of this pursuit of this world, of worldly things. So therefore he first gives the samsara varnanam. So he says, he's talking about Ashwatha tree and he says, Urdhva Moolam Adashakam. Urdhva means higher, up, above. Urdhva Moolam Moolam means the root. Ada Shakam. Shakam means branch. So he says, Urdhva Moolam, Ada Shakam. Root above, branches below, branch below. Ashwatam Prahuhu Avyayam. Prahuhu means they speak. They speak. They means who? In the Upanishads, in the scriptures, the masters. They speak of Ashwatha tree, giant fig tree, people tree. They speak of this giant fig tree with root above, branches below, and it is Avyayam. Avyayam means imperishable, continues. They speak of the imperishable Ashwatha giant fig tree with root above, branches below. Chandamsi yasya parnani. The Chandas is what is referred in the translation by Swamiji as hymns of Vedas. The hymns of Vedas are the leaves of this tree, whose leaves are hymns of Vedas. Yastam Vedasa Vedavit. He who knows that gains wisdom of Vedas. He who understands this has gained the wisdom of Vedas. This is what he's saying. Now, what is he trying to do here? He is comparing this Ashwatha tree, giant fig tree, or people tree, to samsara, the world. Ashwatha means that which does not remain the same, constantly changing. And this constantly changing world, because fig tree is referred to world, or used to represent the world. So he says, this Ashwatha tree, or this world, is constantly changing, but remaining, or seems to be remaining, constantly. That is why he uses the word imperishable, avyayam. Right? So he says, they speak of the imperishable Ashwatha giant fig tree with root above. Now when he says root above, branches below, now the confusion is, in a lot of people, they actually draw a tree inverted, as if the roots are above and the branches are below. When he says above, what he wants to say is the root he's comparing to Brahman, the reality. And the tree is the world which is manifested from Brahman. So the manifestation, he puts it below, and the cause, he puts it above. We put our parents above, teachers above. So the root is the cause, that is referred to as Brahman. Urdhva Moolam. So that Moolam, Karanam. Why is it called as above Urdhvam? Sukshmatvat Urdhvam. Karanatvat Urdhvam. Sukshmatvat means because it is subtle. The cause is subtler than the effect. The cause pervades the effect. He's already spoken this many times. In the second chapter itself, he's spoken. He said, no, indeed, that to be imperishable, by which all this is pervaded. He already said this, right? In the second chapter. I think it's sloka number 17. So he said, no, indeed, that to be imperishable, by which all this is pervaded. When that sloka was done, I had explained to you with an example. Elephant made of wood. The wood pervades the entire elephant. Elephant form is made of wood. A particular form is made of wood, and that is the form of animal elephant. So the name is elephant, form is elephant. Which is come from where? Wood. Wood is subtle because it pervades the entire elephant. So, when we say sukshma, subtle, one of the main aspects of subtlety is more pervasiveness. The subtlest is all pervading. So we say space is the subtlest of all the elements. So when we say space is the subtlest of all the elements, what it means? It means space pervades all the elements. And space cannot be divided. It is all pervading. So, similarly, wood from which this elephant has come, the form elephant has come, you say wood is above because it is subtle and the form is gross. It can be broken and something else can be made. So therefore, the form is below. The root is above, superior. It is subtle. And karanatvat urdhvam. Karanatvat urdhvam means because of the karana. The cause is the wood from which the world is made. So therefore he says, this manifested world is below and that cause is above. And the root is not seen. Similarly, what we see is only the world. We don't see the cause, Brahman. Yet, this tree cannot be there without the root. Similarly, this world cannot be there without the Brahman. So therefore, this world depends on Brahman. And that is Satyam, this is Mithya. So when he says, root above, branches below. Now, what are these branches referred to? The branches are referred to the activities. Now, in some interpretations, you will see that the branches are referred to the 5 elements, subtle and gross both. So basically, if you have studied Tattvabodha, there we discussed that Brahman is there and the potential Shakti is in Brahman, just like how in an artist, the potential Shakti of painting is there. But that artist is not constantly identifying with that painting Shakti. Once in a while, he or she may identify with it and then paints. So similarly, there is Shakti in Brahman and that is called Maya. So when you talk about Brahman with Maya, we use the word Ishvara. And we say Ishvara is above Maya. And this Maya manifests as, Maya is the one which has 3 gunas, Triguna Atmika. And that manifests as Sukshma Prapancham and Sthula Prapancham. The subtle world and the gross world. Hiranyagarbha and Virat Purusha. So first, the 5 elements come about, the subtle elements, and then how slowly the senses came, the organs of perception, organs of action, pranas, all that he discusses, then mind, intellect, and then how slowly the tamasic aspect, see from the sattvic and rajasic aspect of the Maya Shakti, the organs of perception, organs of action, pranas, mind, intellect, everything comes. Then from the tamasic aspect, which goes through pentamerous self-division and mutual combination, the gross elements come about, and the combination of gross elements form the gross world and the gross body. All this we have studied in Tattvaboda. Just reminding. So now, this subtle elements and gross elements have come from what? Brahman, through Maya. So, in some places, the branches are referred to as these subtle elements and gross elements. Swamiji talks about the branches as activities. It doesn't matter. All basically they want to say is, all this is perishable. Understanding this, you should shift your attention towards Brahman. So, branches below, Ada Shakam. The branches have come from Brahman. The activities have come from Brahman. The elements have come from Brahman. And then he says, leaves are hymns of Vedas. Chandamsi yasya parnani. The leaves are compared with Vedas. Now again, Swamiji interprets this as conditioned knowledge. From the pure knowledge, consciousness, Brahman. When the pure knowledge strikes our thoughts, we say, I know. Isn't it? When the pure consciousness strikes our thoughts, pure knowledge strikes our thoughts, we say, I know. So all knowledges that we have now, whatever it may be of, all are called as conditioned knowledge. This conditioned knowledge is what is referred to here as Vedas. In the Vedas itself, in the Upanishad, which is part of Vedas, the end portion of Vedas is Upanishads. In that, one of the Upanishads, he says, I am inconceivable. Many Upanishads he says. Here he says, it is not what you conceive, but what makes you conceive. That means what? Brahman is not what you conceive. So Vedas are also manifestation. So from that angle, it is also conditioned knowledge. So he says, all conditioned knowledges have come from Brahman. So the leaves are compared to Vedas. Like the leaves have come from the root, and therefore he says that. Another way of looking at this, they say, these Vedas here, Chandamsi Yasya Parna. Chandas, when he says the Parnani leaves are the Chandas, the Vedas, the hymns, they are not talking about Veda Anta Upanishads, they are talking about Veda Purva, which is what? The ritualistic portion, Karma Kanda. And this Karma Kanda portion, what does that do? In Karma Kanda portion, you do rituals. For what purpose? To fulfill your desires. Isn't it? They say, Acha, you want wealth? Do this ritual. You have to do these tapas and do rituals, and for so many days or whatever, you'll get it. Then, okay, I want children. Okay, do this ritual. I want name, fame, whatever. Then different rituals are prescribed in the Karma Kanda portion. So Vedas are not against achieving material things. But Vedas want you to achieve material things. For what purpose? To understand the frivolous nature of the material stuff and move towards Brahman. But the problem is, as we start achieving, the mind starts craving for more, more and more, never contented, never satisfied. So we continue going more and more in that direction. Already said in the second chapter only, the slokas between 41 and 44. He says, Vedavada rataha. He said people quote Vedas as if Vedas is highest, meaning they talk about rituals. And then Pushpitam Vacham, he said, flowery speech. Meaning what? They swear by the rituals. They don't get to the Vedanta. They're stuck in Vedas, the beginning portion, rituals. The rituals are meant to help you to fulfill your desires and purify your mind so that you can go to Vedanta, the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita. But many people are stuck in rituals. So therefore, he is comparing that ritualistic portion to the Vedas, or ritualistic portion from the Vedas to the leaves. And here the interesting thing is, leaves help in sustaining the tree. I'm not going to get into the science, how the leaves through the sunlight brings the oxygen and the tree sustain and all that. So now the point here is leaves help in sustaining the tree. Similarly, these activities when we perform, this samsaric world is going on, isn't it? If you stop it, what will happen? It will end. In fact, Sri Krishna said that also in the third chapter. I don't want anything from this world. There is nothing in this world that is not achieved by me. I've achieved everything, I know. Yet I engage myself in action. Why? Because if I don't do action, men will in all ways follow me. This is what he said. And I will be the cause of confusion and everything. Slowly destruction will happen. Action is the insignia of life. Inaction is death. So therefore, he says, these ritualistic portions are actions. Is the one which sustains this samsara. Isn't it? This samsara needs to be sustained. You have to continue acting constantly. Otherwise, it will perish. So therefore, he says, these leaves are the Vedas. The ritualistic portion sustains this samsara. And one who knows this, he who knows that, meaning what? Understanding that this world is actually a manifestation of that Brahman, and it seems to be imperishable, in the sense it is of constantly changing nature. There is a power cut here, but yeah, it's come back now. Okay. So, the samsara is something that is constantly changing. By constantly changing, it continues to exist. Seems imperishable, eternal, going on and on. It seems it has no beginning, it has no end. Huge tree of Ashwatha, when you see, it's, from a relative angle, it looks so huge, it has no beginning, no end. So he compares that. It says this world also seems to be having no beginning, no end. In fact, Vedanta very clearly says, if you talk about the beginning of this world, there is no answer to it. All that Vedanta says is, this world has come from Brahman. How? Like I explained to you. So, once you see this whole, you understand. See meaning in your subtle intellect. When you begin to understand this whole thing. So he says, he who knows that gains wisdom of the Vedas. Wisdom of the Vedas means the truth. Brahman is the wisdom of Vedas. All that Vedas finally boil down to what? That Brahman. If you know that Brahman, if you realize that Brahman, if you get enlightened, then you know Vedas. Otherwise, your name can be Trivedi or Chaturvedi. So, therefore, the one who's understood this whole thing, that this which seems to be constantly going, changing, yet seems to be constantly existing, is actually come from Brahman. The main root is Brahman. The existence of Brahman leaves the potential of not understanding Brahman as Brahman. And that non-apprehension of Brahman causes the misapprehension of the world. You understand? The existence of Brahman leaves the potential of not understanding Brahman as Brahman. And not understanding Brahman as Brahman brings about the misunderstanding of this world. So when you say world, what is it? Take away time, space, causation, there is no world. Time is eternal, space is all-pervading, causation is endless. It goes on and on and on. So this world seems to be eternal, all-pervading, endless. Swami Ramtita beautifully explains. Incidentally, in the Saturday class, Vedanta treatise book, we are studying this topic Maya. There all this we are discussing. Now, when you misunderstand something, the qualities will have to be similar or same. You can misunderstand a rope as a snake. You can misunderstand a boulder as an elephant. You can misunderstand a post or a tree as a ghost. You can't misunderstand rope as an elephant. Not possible. When a boy sees sees a snake where there is a rope, you are seeing the rope. But the fellow is seeing snake where there is a rope. You ask the boy, what are the qualities of the snake that you are seeing? He'll say 4 feet long, 3 inches thick, black in color, coiled. This 4 feet long, 3 inches thick, black in color, coiled is also the qualities of the rope. 4 feet long, 3 inches thick, black in color, coiled, rope. That fellow has misunderstood that as a snake. So the qualities will be same. So what Vedanta is saying is, these eternal, all-pervading, endless qualities that you are seeing in the world in the form of time, space and causation is actually the qualities of Brahman, which is eternal, Nityam, all-pervading and endless. So the qualities of Brahman has mirrored itself as the world. That's why you see this seems to be eternal, going on. So though it's changing, it's not remaining the same. Our life doesn't remain the same. In fact, this morning, we had already announced in the group that I will come and do the class in person. Those who want to come in person, come. Others can attend online. Suddenly, by around 9:30, 10, I developed this little bit of back problem. And it was not, becoming better at all. Slightly better now, but it's still not fully gone. So I said, listen, I can't travel. Let me do it online. In fact, in between, I was not even sure I'll be able to do it online. So the thing doesn't remain the same. It constantly changes. Yet, in changing, this continues. So it is, from that angle, it is also avyaya, beginningless. So therefore, he says, this changing phenomenal world, which is endlessly going through the cycle of birth and death, known as samsara, is this Ashwatha tree. And many of us are lost in the Ashwatha tree, the branches, the leaves, and all that. Very few can see or identify with the root. Where are we seeing the root? We are lost. In fact, in Vedanta Treatise book, Swamiji gives the example of this puppet show. When the puppet show is going on, many of us are lost in the story. Hero puppet fell in love with heroine puppet, Romeo, Juliet, etc., stories. And then what happened in between? We get lost in the story. Some people may see a thread connected to the puppets. Very few people will understand that the threads are understand the sense. Generally they know, but while watching the movie, while watching the puppet show, there are the threads are connected to the fingers of a person who's doing it, who is even aware of it. We are lost. So that's what he's saying. When you see this Ashwatha tree, when you're going through this samsaric life, which is constantly changing and existing, while studying in the class, we are talking about root, above, this thing, that thing. But constantly, are we aware of it? We are not. We are lost. Like in the poem Pineapple and the Bee, William Cowper says, the sight our foolish heart inflames, we long for pineapples in flames. The moment we see, gone. But that is coming in the next sloka. So, we are lost in samsara. But very rarely one person, he says, he who knows that. He who knows that means what? He doesn't get lost. Because he knows about the root. He identifies with the root while seeing the tree. Even if we study about the tree, everything, while seeing the tree, we don't have any identification with the root. That's why we get involved and then we go in these samsaric cycles. So that's what he's saying. There are people who are called as Vedavit. Vedavit means one who knows the essence of Vedas. One who knows the essence of Vedas only identifies with Brahman. He doesn't get lost in this samsara. So that person sees the whole thing. He understands. He who knows that gains the wisdom of Vedas. First, we have to understand this. That's why he explains. So he says, Urdhva Moolam Adha Shakam. The root above, branches below. The Stula Prapanjam and Sukshma Prapanjam and Sula Prapanjam have come from that below, the manifestation. They are superimposition. Brahman is the root. And this superimposition has mirrored the qualities of what it is superimposed upon. So the Brahman's qualities, you may ask, you said Brahman is Nirguna. What do you mean by Brahman quality? We are talking about quality of Brahman from our, intellectual angle. Honestly speaking, one of the, pointers for Brahman is, it is Nirguna, which has no quality, nothing. It has no qualities. Okay. In fact, to say that the Brahman is a substratum is the minimum we can use. Because we are talking about the world and then from there we are going. See, whenever we go to the unknown, we have to go from the known. So when you go from the known, when you talk about the unknown with reference to the known, then obviously you will, somewhere there will be a compromise. So that way you are saying substratum, that is also quality. So Swami Ramtirtha, when he talks about the theory of perception, in the end he says, this is, if at all, is the quality of Brahman, which you say is a substratum. But actually, from my personal experience, I can say Brahman has no quality. Meaning what? It's gone beyond it. There is no quality, nothing, only consciousness. And that is Brahman, he says. So now they speak of imperishable Ashwatha giant fig tree with root above, branches below, whose leaves are hymns of Vedas. So, what are the things we need to remember here? Root is Brahman, branches, activities, or subtle and gross elements, and then leaves are the ritualistic portion of Vedas or the conditioned knowledge. From the pure knowledge, the conditioned knowledges have come. So once I understand this, I constantly identify with the root, then I don't get lost in this samsaric world. And the samsaric, explanation, he takes it a little deeper in the. Let's continue with sloka number 2.
अधश्चोर्ध्वं प्रसृतास्तस्य शाखाः गुणप्रवृद्धा विषयप्रवालाः अधश्च मूलान्यनुसन्ततानि कर्मानुबन्धीनि मनुष्यलोके.
So here he says, here also he uses the word ada, urdhvam, all these words are used. So adascha urdhvam prastuta tasya shakaha. Here plural comes. Shakaha, the branches. And guna pravruddha vishaya pravalaha. Pravalaha means the buds. Vishaya means sense objects. He equates the sense objects as the pravala, the buds. And it is nourished by the gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. So the branches, he says, its branches are spread below and above. Now, Swamiji takes it as the branches which is already mentioned in the previous sloka. The branches go below and above, nourished by sattvic, rajasic and tamasic gunas. Sattvic guna takes your activities upward towards Brahman, rajasic and tamasic towards downward, devolutionary. Now, if you go a little more into detail, what you can say is the main branch is what was referred in the previous sloka. From the main branch, the tributary branches come. That some will go up, some will go down. So, he's saying they are nourished by the gunas. Nourished by the gunas, sattva, some branches go up, some go down, evolutionary, devolutionary. And Vishaya Pravala, with buds as the sense objects. And roots, now he uses plural here. Mulani. Previous sloka only Moolam. So Moolam means primary root. Mulani means secondary roots. Now when you see this Ashwatha tree, the people tree, the main tree comes from the root, main root. Then you have a lot of secondary roots which come down from the branches and then goes and holds on to the earth. So they hold it, they cling to the earth and they hold it together. So like that, what are these secondary roots referring to? The secondary roots, he says, the roots stretch below as actions binding men in the world. Karmanu bandini. They are the karmas, referring to the vasanas. So now, what he's saying is, now, okay, karmas are the vasanas. Then buds as sense objects, that we didn't explain. Why sense objects is comparing to buds? Buds is what then becomes as the what? Small branches, isn't it? From the main branch, buds will come, and then from that, the branches will come. So what he wants to say is, he is comparing the buds to sense objects. Why? Because, again, like I quoted the pineapple and the bee poem, the sight our foolish heart inflames, we long for pineapples and frames. Meaning what? First you see or hear and gain the knowledge. Then the desire comes. Ravana heard about Mother Sita from Shurpanaka. Then the desire came in Ravana. Then he goes and fights with, before fighting, he takes away her. That action he does. So first is knowledge, then comes desire, then comes action. So where does the action come from? Desire. Where does the desire come from? Knowledge. If I had not known about it, I would have not desired it. Either I've seen it or I've heard about it. Some form I have come to know about it. Then only the desire comes. And once the desire comes, then action comes. And when I do action, what happens? Now remember what we studied in Vedanta treatise book. Chronology of action. What is chronology of action? From vasana comes thought. From thought comes desire. From desire comes action. From action comes vasana. This is what we need to understand. Like, from the tree comes, from the seed comes the tree. And from the tree again comes the seed. So like this, the cycle is going on. So the vasanas bring about thoughts. Thoughts bring about desires. Desires bring about actions. And when we are doing action, what happens? You get another desire, another vasana. So action produces further vasanas. So we are getting caught like this. We should know how to act in such a way we don't produce vasanas. For this we have mentioned many times, when your actions are, for example, the seeds are roasted in fire and you sow the seeds, it won't germinate. If you don't roast it in fire and you sow it, if the soil is conducive, it will grow, germinate. So the roasted seeds don't grow. Similarly, the roasted actions means actions roasted in the awareness of Brahman, knowledge, roasted in knowledge of Brahman, doesn't create vasanas. This we have discussed many times. So what he's saying is, the activities which you are running, you see, desire comes, run. And you're doing it unaware. And by constant thinking, you are developing more and more vasanas. And those vasanas make you get caught in samsara, remain in samsara more. The root from which the tree has come, and then the subsidiary roots, the secondary roots, they come and they cling. So like that, due to the non-apprehension of Brahman, the misapprehension samsara has come. Now once this misapprehension samsara has come, I am seeing myself as this individual who is limited. Then I am seeing these objects and beings of this world. And to deal with this limitation, sense of limitation, I think by courting these objects and beings, I can find solution to this insecurity, this limitation. Then what am I doing? Constantly running to acquire wealth, to acquire contacts, people, this, that, and then do some punya activity which we believe will protect us. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha to bhul jayega. We don't, no connection, no thought. No thought about moksha. Constantly running, and developing more and more and more vasanas. The secondary roots. This is holding this Ashwatha tree very well, our samsara very well. And due to the vasanas, what happens? We are constantly being born. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. like Adi Shankara says. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani, jatare shayanam. Iha samsare, bahudustare, kripaya pare, pahi murare, bhaja govindam, bhaja govindam, govindam bhaja mudamate. Mudamati. This mati, how much ever we study, reflect and all, we still get caught because vasanas are there. So that's what he's explaining. So these buds from which the small branches come, some are going up, some are going down. The sattva, see, previous chapter only we studied. Sattva also binds you. The sattvic fellows, what are they constantly into? See, in our contacts, you have all kinds of people. So they keep on sending you these WhatsApp forwards. There are fellows who keep on sending you WhatsApp forward about you eat this, you don't eat this, you know this will happen, that will happen. They're bound in that idea, in that area. Sattvic fellows, he says in the previous chapter, is bound to happiness and knowledge. Bombard you with all kinds of information and knowledge. Or you eat this, you will be happy. You will this thing will happen. Otherwise, you will end up sick. This will constantly. There are other fellows, rajasic fellows. You follow this channel. This will make you earn money. This share market, that thing. Tamasic fellows, they talk about the other things. So he says, it is all nourished by these gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. That's why it's become very strong. And then they're constantly running, and then vasanas have come from that, and it is holding this samsaric tree strongly. That's all he wants to say. So, from the main root, the tree has come, sustained by rituals, activities, nourished by gunas. Some are going up, some are going down, and constantly creating vasanas. And thus this samsara is going on. Isn't it? Tomorrow morning, now after this class, slowly, we'll all, by around 9:30, 10, 11, whatever time, you go to sleep. Then, tomorrow morning you get up. When you get up, what happens? Vasanas. The fellows who have vasana for cricket, they go to cricket. Fellows who have vasanas to go to engineering field, they go there. Medicine, they go there. Dance, artists, according to their vasanas, everybody goes. Again, sleep. Again, wake up. So birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, it goes on. The samsara continues. It seems to be eternal, not at all ending. It's a never-ending thing. That's what he's saying. Like this huge ashwatha tree, which is never-ending. Our life is also seemingly never-ending. Why never-ending? Because we really don't understand this whole thing. And the moment you start understanding the whole thing, what you should do, that he discusses in the next two slokas. That we'll see next week. But why is he explaining? Why this samsara vivaranam here? The idea is this, that you are constantly, creating vasanas because you are not understanding how this tree has come from the root. And therefore you get lost in the tree. Since you are lost and creating more and more vasanas, this is continuing. And this is of what nature? Constantly changing. Never remaining the same. That's the meaning of the word ashwatha. Our samsara never remains the same. Morning the fellow is very happy. Within half an hour, very sad. Then he becomes slightly better. Like this, our life is going on. All sustained by the gunas that has come from the vasanas. And the whole thing is what? Non-apprehension vasanas. And when I understand this, when I step back and see it, then there is some hope. Don't step back and see it. See, like the example of the tree is making us see this whole thing. You see the tree, main roots, Brahman. Main root, not roots. Main root, Brahman. The branch is the what we're saying, activities or the subtle and gross elements. Then the leaves are the ritualistic portion of the Vedas, conditioned knowledge. Then the small branches that come from the main branch are sustained by gunas, and it comes from the bud, and the bud is sense objects. And once you see the sense object and develop desire and do activities propelled by the gunas, you create vasanas, the secondary roots. Thus, through non-apprehension, misapprehension comes, and through your activities you form karmas. Then you are going on and on in samsaric cycle. This is what is happening to you. Now, to get out of the samsaric cycle, attain moksha is in your hands. How? We'll discuss that next week. Let's conclude. Oh. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.